Hey, fellow Restopians, how you doing? Welcome to Restopia. So, ding dong, delivery yesterday. I've been on holiday, and so I missed my delivery of my nice new Erebus Asent Blue Helix dial O-style bracelet watch, but it came yesterday. Had a little bit of trouble with, what was it, £74 for import taxes, whatever, and the DHL admin fee, which is what I was expecting. So I paid that when I got notification. It was meant to come last Monday, but I was already on holiday then. So I paid the fees. There was a little bit of issue with putting it on vacation hold. So a bit, yeah. I'm not a massive fan of DHL, but yeah, they sort of redeemed themselves in that they did actually then deliver it on the day I asked them to, and delivery was really good. Had the little tracking thing on the not on the app. I think it's two sides to DHL. I've got the DHL app that isn't involved in this coming over from Australia, but they contacted me via WhatsApp, and yeah, and it all got sorted. So yeah, it's here now. Didn't do an unboxing. I thought I'd just have a look at it yesterday. Comes in. This is the third time I've recorded this video because the first time I didn't like it. Second time the battery went on the camera. So yeah, third time. So comes in the case, same as or pretty similar to. Let's get them out. Not exactly the same. As the Origin over there. Didn't have a screwdriver this time. It's a lovely case, good for travelling with two watches. And as I've got two of them now, I can travel with four watches, all very compact. I'm not a massive fan of putting them flat, but and I've got other cases. I've got other individual cases as well that I use. So, but yeah, really like it. Really nice touch. This one didn't come with a screwdriver. But I had my own sitting over there, so that wasn't a problem. Took the one link out. I do need a 7.5-inch wrist at the moment, I would say, if I measured it, because it's a little bit. I've been on holiday, lots of beef stufado and chicken Slovakia and beer. So about 7.5 inches. One link out, but the watch is on its minimum. The micro adjust is fully in, so I do need to take out either another link. It does have two part links. You said half links. They're never half links. Two part links on there. So I need to take one or other of those out, either a full link or a part link. And so that the micro adjust can be somewhere in the middle, because you really should size the watch with the links and avoid using the micro adjust. That should be there so that you can make it bigger or smaller, easier on the fly in this case, because it's a toolless micro adjust. But I'll do that later. I just wanted to wear it yesterday. But what was in here that wasn't in the last one? So there's three cards in this one. So you get the thank you with the picture of Jodie and Stevie. I think it was a real picture last time, but now it's a cartoon. So it's nice, bit different, probably less expensive to make. But God, Stevie looks a bit like E.T. there. Look at that. That's not very flattering. I only just noticed that. Sorry, Stevie. The warranty card. Generic warranty card, but you get an extra one this purchase, now, however you want to put it. And it's basically saying, don't unwrap the watch if you're going to return it. Like, make sure you want it before you unwrap it. But I guess, if there was a fault with it, you'd still be able to return it. I mean, it seems like, you're going to get it all the way here and you're not going to unwrap it. I mean, I unwrapped it before I even knew that was in there. So that's a little tip. That's probably the best part of this video, the most useful part of this video for anyone, is bear in mind, if you take it out all wrapped up, and I don't like the wrapping, if you take it out all wrapped up, if at that point you think you want to return it, don't unwrap it. Now, I don't like the wrapping because it's that generic, cheap, Chinesey wrapping, it's like really tight cling film. It's really over everything. There's a bit on there on the case, and there's a bit on each side of the bracelet. And it's really annoying to take off. You feel like you're sort of pulling on the watch. I don't like it. I mean, this video is going to be titled something like how near is this to a Rolex? That annoys the pants off me because it's nothing like a Rolex. Well, it's something like it. It's a watch, you know, it's a very nice watch for the money, but there's just no comparison. You know, we'll come on to that in a minute. The Origin was, I think they're both lovely watches. I prefer the Origin. If I know a lot of people say, I didn't like the Origin, so I'm going to buy an Asent, but I hadn't seen the Asent at that point, but for some reason they didn't like that one, and they do like that one. I prefer the Origin at the moment. I've only had this a day, but I think these are the best two colours, and I love owning both of these watches. I think they're great. Jodie and Stevie, I guess, set out to, it's mainly Jodie, set out to make the best value affordable watches, the best quality affordable watches, best value that they could. And I think, yeah, they've kind of done that in my experience. I think with a dressier watch, and I'll come on to this in a bit, a dressier watch, I think it's harder to do. I think that if you went up a little bit, I think you could probably get one that was better, but you've got to spend more. There's one watch I've got in mind, but yeah, I think it's harder with a dressier watch. It's easier with a dive watch, and I'll come on to that again in a minute as well. But the reason I got this in my left hand was when this is designed around about 4 different brands, so Tudor, Helm, Doxa, and Zinn with the bracelet, I would say. Doxa's mainly the colours, the colourful ones, which this isn't. But no one really said, oh, it's as good as a Tudor, or it's as good as a, I mean, it will be Tudor, wouldn't it? Because that's the most expensive of the three that is. Or Zinn, it's as good as a Tudor, it's as good as a Zinn. No one really said that, but because this one was designed around, apparently, from what I could remember, it was designed around a Rolex Omega. I don't really get too many Omega vibes from it, but Grand Seiko. Of course, everyone now is saying, oh, Rolex, yeah, it's like a Rolex. Oh. And it just isn't, you know. There are some things that are like a Rolex, but it's not. It's wrong in my opinion to compare. They're chalk and cheese, but it's a lovely watch for the money. I think it's more Grand Seiko anyway. I've got a Grand Seiko over there. So that arrived. Let's go through the likes and dislikes, shall we? It's a bit annoying. It's a bit difficult for me because I can't remember what I said in the last video and what I've said in this one. But I'll rattle through them. Hopefully some of this will be of interest. Just things that I've noticed maybe that you might not. What do I like? So I love the indice shape. They're like shark's teeth, but cut off at the end, not completely pointed. I love the double batons. Some people have said they're not the same. They're not, one's bigger than the other. I can't see that on my one with my eyes. They look fine. I'm not going to look at it under some sort of loop or macro. That doesn't really bother me. As long as it looks fine under my eyes, which is what I use when it's on my wrist, then that's fine with me. So I love the double batons. It's a really nice weight. It's got a lovely weight to it. The bracelet. Now, I love an oyster bracelet. So this O style. At that angle, it looks absolutely lovely. That is a very nice taper, very nice finish. Basically, they've copied Rolex, so it kind of is going to. But the machining on it and stuff, they've done a very good job with that. And I do like. It's a little bit loose for me. I've been playing around with the microdust, but I do like that. It's male end link, which I prefer. It's less fussy. There's no join there. Now the case back. So Jodie said that the case back, I think this was a bit of a red herring. It created a false negative for reviewers. What I mean by that is they could have it as a negative and people would think, well, I don't really care about the case back anyway because I care about the front, not the back. So that's fine. Yeah, and Jodie did say that the production models would have a better case back, and I'm going to say this is probably one of the best case backs that I own. I think my Zinn has a nice case back as well, I think, but this is it's almost perfect really. So it's a nice embossed, it's brushed, nice embossed Erebus logo, sandblasted in the middle. I love the shape, the U shape of the you know, the bits that you know, you put the, if you want, when it's opened up. Perfect amount of information on there, engraved in there. Yeah, absolutely stunning case back, and it does give it a nice feel when you pick it up. You know, it's a bit tactile. Lovely case back, love that. Case shape. So this, you know, like I said earlier, I think it's far more Grand Seiko than Rolex. So here we have a Grand Seiko, Shibun Autumn. So it's got that sort of curvature to it. Yeah, just a lovely case shape. The other Grand Seiko thing, of course, is the blue helix dial. On this one, they're not all like this, but on this one, it's got a pattern dial. I think it works well. I prefer this to the Grand Seiko. I'm that guy that doesn't like Grand Seiko dials, really. Trouble with a textured pattern dial is you've got to like it. Whereas if it's a planar dial, you know, it's going to be okay. But if it's a very pattern textured dial and you don't like that pattern and texture, then that's a problem. I really do like this pattern and texture to it. I think it's just right. There is a Grand Seiko dial that looks a little bit like this, but I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, they only make it in smaller watches, and I would have wanted the bigger one. But I digress. Lovely dial, love the dial, love everything on there. Date window, surround to the date window. The Erebus printed in white with the Asent and the 10 atoms. Not so keen on that, but yeah, it's, you know, it's harmless enough. But overall, a lovely dial. It's got 2 part links, which I mentioned, and the dial. So that's all the positives. So some really good positives. Oh, actually, one I haven't mentioned because I didn't write it down. The proportions I think are great. So proportions rather than dimensions. Dimensions is a measurement. Proportions is how all of those measurements work with the others. So although this is a bit small for me, those proportions, that's what you see when you've got it on, really, isn't it? So basically the lug shape, length, taper, width, taper of the bracelet rather, I think, just make sure there's no glare there, I think just are near perfect. They are very, very, very nice proportions. I'd love it if the case were bigger and the lug width were bigger for me personally, but you know, it is what it is. The only thing is that crown. I really don't like that crown, but we'll come into that in a minute. Because we've got the negatives next. What don't I like? Oh, let's start with the biggie. The only thing I would like, so you've got moans and niggles. So moans and niggles would be the chapter ring / rehalt, which is kind of both. It's, you know, it's like a rehalt and a chapter ring at the same time. So whereas if you look at, I don't know, let's say this Sestrian, or let's get the Rolex out. So, you know, the Rolex rehalt would be steel. And the chapter ring is on the dial, whereas on this, it's kind of, you've got the rehalt, which is angled up, and then that is also the chapter ring. There are advantages and disadvantages to that. Grand Seiko is the same. It's not as noticeable. This actually reminds me of, this is why I've got the Casio edifice out, of Casio. When I sort of saw the pictures of this early on, it reminded me of this Casio edifice. I think it looks a little bit cheap. Interestingly, the Tudor Pelagos is the same. So that has the same thing going on. Tudor Pelagos, though, it does have, well, the original, you know, the 41mm, 42mm. It does have the recessed indices. So, you know, and it's a dive watch as well. So it's kind of, but yeah, generally, I think that the printed rehalt with the second markers looks cheap generally. Now, I think this colour variation has a lot going for it. It's easily my favourite. I mean, people say, oh, so many colours, I don't know what one to choose, but there could be 50 colours and I'd just find the one that I wanted. And it was instantly going to be this one with the helix dial, so the pattern on the dial, blue. I think it works well when it fades from blue to black. That works well with a date window because on some of the models it doesn't look like the date window colour is matched very well to the dial, but because you've got a fade here, that date window, which is probably black, matches the black outer, so it's going to match something there. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not too keen on the rehaul. I think it just looks a little bit cheap. It actually looks better in the flesh than I thought it would. What else am I not? What else is a moan and niggle? I was going to whinge about the quick release bracelet, but it doesn't bother me either way, really. I've said about the size and I've said about the printed white text. So, yeah, very nice dial, very nice. Everything's nice. The only thing that goes beyond a moan and a niggle and is something that really grates me is that crown. I just think it looks really cheap. I kind of felt that in the pictures online, but it is what it is. I remember not liking the crown on the Origin. Actually, I think that was an area that could be improved. But it doesn't. It looks worse on the Asent. Hasn't got crowns. I think one reason is that it's polished. I think it looks really cheap because it's polished. I think if it was brushed, it just looks. When you brush things, they just look. I don't know. I think they look better quality. More expensive, you know. But this to me, this whole crown looks cheap. I think it looks cheap from this angle, and it looks cheap. It looks even cheaper from that angle. I think a lot of that is that it's polished. It is embossed. Is that the right word? Embossed. But it's not as deep. It's not as noticeable. I mean, it's a smaller crown. But yeah, I don't like the crown. I really, really don't like the crown. But that is really the only thing that I would really like to be different. So that's my pros and cons. Hopes maybe some of those you didn't notice might be useful. So now comparing to watches. Right, let's get rid of these. So I've got two things to say. As in the title of the video, how does it compare to a Rolex or a Grand Seiko, let's say, or a more expensive watch? I mean, it just doesn't. The feel is very, 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 very nice for the money. But it just doesn't feel like popping one of these on and off. It just doesn't. Whether that's worth you spending another $5-6 grand is personal choice. My feeling is, I love watches, so I've got both, but they are very different, and it just annoys when people try and say, "Oh, it's just as good, it's better." It doesn't feel anything like them. It's more jangly. It's just not the same feeling. And I only really realised this yesterday. See, to me, the reason I've got the Sestrian over here is, actually, that's the Casio. The reason I've got the Sestrian over here is, to me, I'm getting Sestrian vibes from the Asent. And this isn't a dig, I'm not knocking it. I'm just being honest. It feels more like a Sestrian to me than it does a Rolex or a Grand Seiko. It's much nicer than the Sestrian, but that's the vibe that I'm getting. That's the feeling that I get from wearing it. But it's a very nice watch. And the sort of epiphany moment I had yesterday was, it's very difficult to do an affordable dressier watch. It's very difficult to make this feel like the same experience as this. I would say it's almost impossible to do. Whereas when you are comparing dive watches, and I suppose there's this Tudor. I mean, this could be a Submariner, I suppose, couldn't it? But when you're comparing dive watches, I didn't do a very good job of cleaning that off, did I? When you're comparing dive watches, this feels far more like this. I suppose what I'm saying is I can put either of these on and I enjoy wearing them in a very similar way. It doesn't matter that this one's significantly cheaper than that one. And I think that is kind of how dive watches are. Even if it was, where's it gone? I had a helm around a minute ago. Even if it was a significantly cheaper watch than the Erebus, not that helm is, but I don't know. There's just that. I think in dressier watches, I think there is a lot to be said for a very expensive one. Get the right one back. There's a lot to be said. I'm not doing recording this for a full time. There's a lot to be said for the genuine article, let's say. You're not going to get that feel from something like a Grand Seiko or, let's say a Rolex, because it's got the best bracelet in the business, really, I think. You're just not going to get that. And I suppose it's how important is that to you? but I don't think they should be compared. Is how I feel. This is punching above its weight, so just leave it at that. And it is worth it to me. Popping something like this on and off every day is worth the money. I think with watches, if you know something like this, I don't want to go on and on about Rolex, but something like this, you buy it, hopefully get it when you're fairly young, and then you just enjoy wearing it for life. You know, that's the kind of thing, the feeling I get with this. I mean, obviously I've got, you know, if you're a collector, a watch guy, you have loads of watches and swap them about and stuff. But yeah, my feeling is it really doesn't come close. And if you want to wear a more affordable watch that feels like a more expensive one, I think you've got to stick to the dive category. That's how I feel. Let me know in the comments below. Flame me if you want, but that's how I feel. I only really thought of this yesterday. I mean, these aren't perfect. I think one of the reasons why it's difficult to emulate a more expensive watch, dressier watch. I know these are sports watches, so I call them dressier, not dress watches. But one of the reasons is that they're all very, very similar. I know all watches are similar, but none of these are perfect. You know, with the crowns and stuff, there's always something that's not quite right. And I, you know, in a way, as I mentioned, the proportions of I think what the Erebus does really well is the proportions. You know, it is really nice. But yeah, that's my feeling. I'm sort of waffling a bit more than normal now. I just think it's difficult. It's difficult to make an affordable dressier watch give you the same experience as an expensive dressier watch, but when it's a dive watch, it's much easier. And, you know, like I say, I've just come back from holiday. I took 4 watches. I took the Explorer, and I took 3 dive watches, and the helm was the cheapest of the 3, more affordable, and I just enjoyed wearing them all. I only had one dressier watch with me, so I wore that in mornings and evenings, and I think if I'd had I don't know, I would have wanted to put that on all the time, as much as I like. Anyway, I'm really, really waffling now. Waffle. But yeah, hopefully that's got some of my thoughts across. Hopefully some of it's been helpful. Yeah, enjoy. If you've got any questions, as I say, let me know in the comments below. But for now, one wrist, live it.